Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daphne from the Institute of Banking and Finance, and we are delighted that you are able to join us this afternoon for this IBF Masterclass, jointly organized with Momenta on how should wealth managers and private bankers adapt in the digital era. In today's session, we will have Carl Tong, Group Managing Director of Momenta, to moderate the session. Joining Carl, we will have Norma Wan, Executive Director for the Consumer Banking Group and Wealth Management at DBS. Melissa Chew, Director, Learning Partner and Program Manager at Bank of Singapore. So before I start the session today, please allow me to share something about IBF. The IBF was established by the MAS in 1974 as a training provider to provide functional training for the financial industry. Since then, our role has evolved into one of the standard setting for financial services sector skills and competency. In August 2018, our mandate was further expanded to cover career advisory and job matching function for the financial services sector. We were also appointed as the Jobs Development Partner for the financial services sector in 2019 by the Jobs Development Council, and now oversees both skills and jobs development of the financial industry in Singapore. Here's a quick look at our services and how we support the industry across training, recruitment, and workforce transformation. You can find out more about our services and connect with us on any one of these areas via our website. So the enhanced course fee subsidy, which are part of MES support package to encourage companies to send their employees for training and upskilling, will continue to be in place until the end of this month. Training costs under IBF recognized programs will be at 80% for trainees below 40 years old, while remaining at 90% for trainees above 40 years old, before going back to pre-crisis levels starting from July this year. Training allowance grant support will also remain in place to encourage companies to continue sending their staff for training. You can find out more about our support system on our website. In addition, you can also find the list of eligible training programs on the IBF Program Finder on IBF website. In addition, the IBF will also be supplementary to commercial training available with free webinars during this period, like the one that you're attending right now, to support the training needs of the industry. Financial professionals can also tap on the Learn at IBF mobile learning app for bite-sized learning at your own leisure. All this complimentary training are accorded with CPD hours. And then that concludes my short introduction. I will now hand the time over to our moderator, Carl, to introduce our speakers and start the fireside chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them via the Q&A function. Over to you, Carl.
Thank you. And just a quick check. Everybody can hear me well? All right. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Well, my name is Carl, and I'm just going to, do we want to keep this screen on for right now?
No, I will just switch it off.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and we're going to spend hopefully some pretty exciting time for the next hour and a half together with my two clients and two close friends. So first, Melissa. Melissa heads the learning function for private banking at Bank of Singapore. And that's a role that actually covers all different markets from Singapore to Hong Kong, as well as even Dubai and the European countries, as well as in the UK. Norman's a longtime friend as well, an expert. He's kind of got perhaps a very diverse background working for large multinational banks, as well as now working for a small bank called DBS here in Singapore. No, DBS, of course, is the main player in the market, and Norman is the regional director and works with consumer banking as well as the wealth teams there. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I want to just kind of give you guys a backdrop. The outcome, hopefully, today is for all of us coming in, having some additional reference points, perhaps some wisdom, and to learn a little bit of what some of the leading banks and learning spaces are doing to equip wealth managers for the future. Now, I want to give 2 or 3 reference points here. The first reference point is we're all coming out from this global pandemic, COVID-19. So I don't think we all need to explain too much the devastating impact that has on people as well as on business. Wealth management, private banking, in itself used to be a very intimate, personable, meet at the hotel lobby over a cup of coffee, perhaps some wine and dine. Private banking is done in the most trusted way on a one-to-one in-person business. All of a sudden, for the last 2 years, that was not possible for many. So how do business continue? That's the one backdrop. The other backdrop, of course, is, we're in a world of Russian-Ukraine war, inflation, stagflation, and the capital markets moving extremely volatile, as well as fintech coming to space, cryptocurrency. We all know what has happened in the last 2-3 weeks with the cryptocurrencies. So as a backdrop, a lot of things are going on. There's a lot of risk, a lot of concerns. At the same time, being a business person, a lot of opportunities. So I guess my first question, let me just direct that over to Norman. Norman, maybe I'll ask you simply from your perspective and from a DBS perspective, what are some of the major changes from the learning space when it comes to wealth management today, which is very different from 2 years ago?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Carl and IBF for having me here. So, Carl, I wanted to address the question by first sharing some of the mega trend that we have observed in recent years. And this is obviously over and above all the market events that has happened over the last 2 years. You mentioned about COVID pandemic, you mentioned about the Ukraine war, and also now we have the China zero COVID policy. There's a significant impact on the supply chain and inflation. All right, so there are a couple of mega trends that has happened over the last in recent years, right? So first and foremost, I think that's something that we are all quite familiar with. It's around the sustainability and ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Increasingly, we have observed that our clients has very keen interest, especially in Asia clients. They have very keen interest in this space. Yeah, so that has created the whole lot of space that we need to step up on training, right? Understanding about ESG investing, so that our RMs are able to strike a meaningful conversation with their clients around the ESG space. Yeah, so that's one area that we're stepping up quite aggressively. In fact, we have created a couple of curriculum, different levels, with the intent to upskill our relationship managers to be able to have that conversation with the clients. Secondly, it's about digitization. It has impacted many different areas, and I think you have mentioned some of them. How our clients would like to be engaged. There are a group of clients who are quite tech savvy. So how should we as an organization, right, a bank, engage this client? There's also about this pandemic. In fact, we have spent quite a bit of resources to in 2020, right, to upskill our relationship managers in terms of how to engage their client using a virtual platform, right? As compared to the usual face-to-face, it's actually quite different, and I can share more in a short while. Yeah, so changing client expectation, and also about the processes and the system. So there's this whole thing about AI that has came along over the last couple of years. So this AI, the way we see it is really about how do we then leverage on technology, data, and AI to improve the productivity of our RMs, right? How would then be able to use this technology to engage client more effectively? In the past, many years ago, right? A lot of this data may or may not be made available to the RMs, or even if they make available to RMs, it's quite difficult for the RMs to be able to synthesize this information, this data.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah, they don't know what to do, and they can't. It's because it's huge data, right? So it's very difficult for them to synthesize this information and make sense of how can they use this data, right, to engage the client. So we are also stepping into that space. So we are looking at, in fact, the work has already started about 2 years ago. So how to leverage on AI to help RMs to increase their productivities. Then finally, we have things around, cyber security that we need to be obviously be very mindful of. So there's whole new space about digital. So again, there's a lot of training that has already happened, but it will always be work in progress because technology is always changing, right? So I don't think we will be in a situation that we say, okay, now we are perfect. There's no more training required. So it's always changing. So we will always be work in progress. The third area that we have observed is talent crunch. The ability to attract private banking talent into the organization has increasingly become more difficult. I'm happy to take some questions at the end of the session. Maybe some of the participants can share their views in terms of, is that something that they have also observed? In the past, so the impact to training is quite significant because in the past, the new hires into the organization in private banking is fairly homogeneous. Yeah, so they come in with certain base knowledge, understanding. So the training is easier. But now we are hiring more diverse group of relationship manager or middle office staff. So we need to think about how do we then tweak our training curriculum so that it can cater to the needs of this very diverse group of new hires.
Thank you. So I'm quickly going to just quickly summarize ESG as a hot topic that is both client-driven, bank-driven, and RM-driven. Digitization, which comes in different forms, and I'll come back to this in a bit. You said it's quite different from even engaging clients, AI from productivity and cybersecurity, and last is talent crunch, which basically saying that we don't have enough people to service the growing demand, and the skill sets and the base knowledge is so different.
Yep.
Thank you. I want to give an opportunity for Melissa to also answer this question and then maybe have a little bit of a discussion here. So Melissa, on your point of view, working with a couple hundred private bankers globally, what are some of the changes that you guys have recognized that you need to kind of pivot or have those people pivot to during this kind of pandemic situation when people can't travel, this whole onshore, offshore? What are some of the areas that you guys have been looking at?
So hi, Carl, and thank you, Carl and Momenta and also IBF, for having me here as well today. I think I agree in what Norman mentioned, right? I think ESG is something that's a major change, and it's kind of impacting the way that the banks or even the private bankers, actually offer, to our clients. Digital is definitely one, and I think that's huge on our agenda. I think we all agree that client needs and wants are very different now. Like what Carl mentioned earlier, the traditional way of private banking, used to be the wine and dine. But who would have thought that 2 years ago, probably before the pandemic, I mean, bankers are always on the road, flying to meet their clients and all. Like now, to actually do a portfolio review over Zoom in 20 minutes, I think that's something that needs to be relearned, right? So on top of ESG, digital, I think one of the things that really kind of have to change is the mindset of our private bankers, right? Because without the change of the mindset that things are gonna go back to the good old days, I think that has to change. You know, for us in VOS, similar to DBS, I think we went on a journey of trying to ensure that, you know, all our bankers had a digital persona, you know, being online, having a digital presence, right? Because I think the first thing that you do now, if you're introduced to someone, is go on Google and, you know, go search on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on any other social media, just to see whether this person is legit or whether it's a scam. So I think private bankers also need to have that. We will talk a little bit more about, you know, how the change of mindset and all, you know, but for me, I think the mindset and embedding a digital element is one of the key things that we look at when we train our bankers now. So yeah.
Thank you, Melissa. Actually, the mindset is a fascinating one. I want to kind of ponder upon that, because this has happened in a couple of our workshops where, according to LinkedIn, you as a private banker, you're not at your bank, you're at 3 banks before, right?
Yeah.
And some prospects, when you Google them, they also Google you and they say, why don't you have a LinkedIn? And there's some resistance initially when we're running these workshops, saying, you know, I'm a very private person. So Norman, what do you think about this mindset issue? I mean, what have you guys faced? Because
yeah. Okay, I just wanted to say that this is spot on, right? Spot on. And I think I think in addressing the mindset, there are different stages that we should approach this, right? So first and foremost, there should be awareness of what is happening, right, in the industry, in the economy. What are some of the mega trends that's happening, right? So the awareness is very important, right? Beyond awareness, then comes the acceptance. To accept that these changes are permanent, it will not go away. Okay, so only with the acceptance, then the easy part is really about the training, right? The training to say that, okay, so now, you know, we can accept that this is not going to go away, and then we can start to collaborate with the business to come up with the right training programs. Yeah. My observation, my personal observation, is that I have seen very positive reaction. I mean, very positive reaction from our relationship managers in private banking. But I think it's important for us to over communicate, and also to take them through this change curve. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating, right? When people say, you know, I don't have a online profile, well, then you're a nobody. Now, just to drill down a little bit, what are some of the technical skills? You talk about ESG as a topic, Norman, but what you mentioned just now, I want to come back to what you're just saying. Engaging a client using digital platforms like MS Teams or Zoom, it's quite different. Can you elaborate a little bit about that? I mean, how so?
Okay. So that it's quite different. It's quite different, even if as at today, right? When we are running this workshop, right? This IBF Connect workshop, using a virtual platform, as opposed to if we meet, you know, in a physical location, it's quite different. Number one, the key concern is really about the engagement with the clients. That's number one. Okay, how can I then effectively engage my client? And that will drill down to all the small little things, right? Some clients may not want to turn on their video. You lose that visual connection. You have that vocal connection, but you don't have the visual connection, right? How should I be presenting myself in front of the camera? What's my backdrop, right? Is my voice projection okay? Is the lighting okay, right? So all these are key considerations. Then the other area that is actually quite important is that you know, the concern about cybersecurity, because now, you know, the client conversation is being transmitted over technology, over the net. So I think we need to help the clients to elevate some of this concern, right? But virtual platform, we were quite happy that, you know, we pivoted quite early in the game, right? So when the pandemic hit, I think sometime in early Q2, we know that it's not going to go away in the next 2 or 3 months. So we quickly, put together a training programs to upskill our relationship managers. In effectively, it means how do you then engage your client effectively over a virtual platform? Yeah.
Norman,
there are quite a lot of things that I can spoke about.
Yeah.
Sorry, but like we have earlier discussion. Remember, 2 years ago we had a discussion
absolutely.
about even very simple things like video, camera, voice projection, body language.
And if the client doesn't want to turn on the video, and sometimes for good reasons, how do you actually still engage them talking to a blank screen? And we do know, and I don't want to go into too much detail, some countries, some of the clients there don't want to talk about investments over Zoom because they think a big brother is watching over them and they don't want people to know they've got so much money.
Exactly.
So those are the realities. Melissa, on your side, what are some of the soft skills that you have intentionally tried to get the bankers to work on?
I think for soft skills, we actually had to relook, like I said, back to the earlier point, right? We kind of have to reteach or, getting bankers to relearn the whole process, right? From the point of doing a proper client portfolio review, for example, how do you actually be effective over Zoom and do a 20-minute Zoom portfolio review? Using PowerPoint, if you don't have any fancy iPad pen or whatever, how do you actually get them to engage? These are some of the things that seems really basic, but it's really essential, right? Then comes the whole advisory piece, right? I think, especially for private banking, we talk about the whole, what's your current state, future state, that sort of stuff. I think that's where we have to also get our bankers to kind of redo, kind of review the clients all over again, because a lot of these priorities have changed. Especially with the pandemic, right? A lot of clients are even reviewing where their residency should be, because that then affects where their asset, where they want to buy properties, and all that kind of stuff. So which is why for soft skills, it's actually really relearning the whole process. I won't say one specific, but definitely the listening skills and being able to pause and listen to your client and not jumping to conclusion, and really asking sensitive and being really tactful in terms of asking some of the questions. I think these are some of the things that we kind of had to reteach our bankers to do. So
especially when it's done on virtual.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because back to your point, right? I mean, when you do face to face, you kind of can see that the person is a little bit uncomfortable, and you could prompt. But if you're talking to just a blank screen that says Melissa Chu, you won't know what the person is thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Carl, if I may just add on
please.
to this, right? Thanks, Melissa. Right. So I think equally important is also the technical skills. On
what do you mean? Sorry, technical skills.
Technical skills in terms of, do you know how to operate the virtual platform? Do you know how to share a file, right? And also the technical support. What happened if something goes wrong during a scheduled meeting? Because we don't want to affect the whole client experience. Yeah. So all these are also important consideration.
So they got to be competent in.
Yeah. And I think, that's where a lot of, not just private banks, but I think banks in general had to kind of accelerate the whole technological front of things, right? Because how do you then securely send through information to get clients to sign? And, especially for private banking, I know there's a lot more client review that needs to be done, and secure platform and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's where we really have to kind of teach our RMs, like you need to be the first line of troubleshoot. So yeah.
Absolutely. And the challenge, of course, is the RMs used to do business in one way, and if they're not switch onto the mindset, it's very difficult to gear up. I'm going to switch to a slightly different topic. We cannot really turn on the news and not be exposed to some of these words: cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin, NFTs. Even last week at one of the clubs, the social clubs that I'm involved in, they say, well, come to the NFT evening. We're going to be doing NFTs for club memberships. I mean, so what are your thoughts about the necessity of a banker or wealth manager to look at some of these newer trends, or are these things here to stay? Maybe Norman, is DBS taking a step at these things in a much more disciplined approach?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, reference to those, like cryptocurrency, NFT investment products, it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the client will ask, right? Especially for those who are more tech savvy, whether we have the solution or not. That is a different set of question, right? But so certainly the RMs will need to understand, not at the expert level. I don't think it's necessary, but at least at the foundation or the intermediate level, they need to understand, right, how it works, and what are the things that are happening, right, in the industry.
This client will ask, right, because the client's kids are probably invested.
For sure. Yeah. Or it could be something that they read on the papers and they will just post the question to RM. Last night I read about this NFT. Yeah, what is your view? So it's going to be, it's necessary for the RMs to know.
So those are new knowledge and new skills. Melissa, how about on Bank of Singapore side? How are you guys looking at some of these?
So we are definitely exploring expanding the digital assets, product offerings for us. I think I would say the good thing is we're in a good position, because of our parent company, OCBC. So there are, conversations about, that part of stuff. But I think increasingly for RMs, like what Norman said, right? I think bankers now needs to be a jack of all trades. They need to know at least, I would say the basic 101s of, what these things are. What are the hot products, what are the hot companies out there, being able to articulate and know what the major trends out there, because that would also help to give you a little bit of perspective of what your clients are looking out for, right? Because then when we talk about asset allocation, when we talk about your portfolio management, then you would have a little bit of sense that, like, for example, this client is really big on NFTs, right? So some part of his or her money would be, doing some stuff there. So yeah.
So it sounds to me like crypto, NFTs, blockchains, these are hot topics. We can't ignore them, but are the banks ready to provide advice along those lines, or that's to be discussed, Norman?
No, I think that's to be discussed. Yeah. So that in DBS we have a digital exchange. Yeah. So we are quite advanced in that space. Yeah. But that would need to be discussed. I think even as recent as a couple of days back, our DPM, Mr. Heng Swee also, was quite explicit to say that, these are extremely high risk investment products, and it's not really for for the layman on the street. Yeah. So I think that requires a lot more discussion. Yeah. And also you look at the recent, the cryptocurrency, the things that are happening.
Dropped from 100 to 0 overnight.
0.00 something.
Exactly. Yeah. What happened? And most people can't explain that, right? Most people cannot explain that. Melissa, coming back to being a digital private banker, what are some success stories in the last 2 years of that you have seen, that you have heard of within your bank? Success stories where the RMs are able to hit their targets because they're able to now network digitally and having the right profile, right LinkedIn. What are some success stories that provides the right motivation for your private banker to get the right mindset?
So as I mentioned, we also started the journey about, getting the whole digital persona, right? So we think, in 2021, we kind of, we had a program that was on how do you actually be an effective digital private banker. And through this program, I think, we have got feedback, last year and even this year, about how our bankers actually reached out, to get referrals through LinkedIn, to actually get referrals and actually have that conversation with the clients. We have had, successes of clients who closed, and it's a little bit more easier, I think, in some markets versus others. I think that's why, the use of these social media platforms would really depend on the kind of clients that you are after, the kind of clients that sit at, like for example in Singapore, right? In Singapore, I think LinkedIn is a common platform that is used, for people to build content, to build network, to like and share, and all. Versus if you go to Hong Kong or China, for example, that might not be as a common, platform, right? That's where WeChat is something that's very eminent. So as a bank, we also reach out and we also help to support our RMs in some of these resources so that they can actually share some of these things, through some of these more established platforms. And we have had success stories, of RMs and closing deals and, all that kind of thing. So yeah.
Through success stories, through engaging virtually, digitally, and able to onboard a client, walking through the whole KYC process and getting funding.
Yeah.
How about Norman on your side? Because business stopped. I mean, business travel stopped for 2 years, basically, no matter how you look at it, unless you're willing to put up with a 3-week quarantine. How has business been conducted, and how has digital tools been helpful?
Okay, I just wanted to build on what Melissa has mentioned about the social media platform, right? And that's something that we are also looking into, right? So the first step is, how do we help the RMs to create a right social media profile? Okay, so the profile is the baseline. That's the step number one.
You need one, right? You need one.
You need one, and when we say you need one, it's not just about putting on a photo on LinkedIn, and also to illustrate your work experience or your educational qualification. It's more than that. There's a lot of strategy that needs to go into this. So what kind of posts you are putting on social media?
Correct.
If you are keen to get if you're keen to engage a particular person in a social media, it could be an ultra high net worth clients. Okay, how do you strategize your move, right, to get connected to that person? If you're just to send a simple message to the person, very likely it's going to get ignored. So exactly. you got to think about, you got to strategize and think about what are the different channels, different connection to reconnect and get connected with that person. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of
that's like an online networking, really.
Yes, it's like online networking, and I think that so as I mentioned, it's not really about just creating a profile, but there's a lot of thinking and strategizing that needs to go into it.
Thank you. So again, I want to just remind the audience here, we're talking about what are the skill sets, mindset and skill sets and knowledge that a wealth manager, a private banker needs to have moving forward, especially given the fact that we couldn't travel for 2 years. The market's so volatile. Big trends such as ESG and crypto are coming in. Having said all that as a backdrop, between DBS Private Bank with Bank of Singapore, You guys are major players here. In addition to the traditional private banks, do you guys see the new fintechs as competitors? Where's the value add? I'm just going to be very blunt. Where's the value add when I can go online, get robo advice and, self-service and not have to have interaction with a private banker? How is the private banker coping with these kind of new alternatives? I wouldn't even say competitors. Norman, your thoughts about who is the real competitor now? It's not
okay. So I don't really have a solution to that question, but I just wanted to provide some perspective. First and foremost, we all know that there's a wealth continuum. In that wealth continuum, there are many different segments. So you have the private banking, and in the context of DBS, you have the treasurers, private clients, you have the treasurers, then you have the the branches, the network. So I think the first question is that in the context of digital bank, we need to think about at what segment they are trying to compete with us. Correct. So whether are they competing at the lower end of the spectrum, or are they trying to compete at the private banking level? Then the next area that
sorry, just a quick interrupt. So you need to know your segment, right? Your segmentation.
Correct. Yeah. So I think most of the digital bank, they probably will know that they can't compete in all the segments, so they need to be a little bit more focused on where are the segment they should be targeting on. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is that with reference to private banking, we still see the value of advisory. Yeah. So that is how the RMs can bring value to their clients. Yeah.
So that conversation, that
conversation, that advice, that solution, that curated solution for the clients, I think that is something that is important, right? Even with the emergence of all the fintechs or digital bank.
Thank you. I agree. The wealth continuum and having to identify the specific segment or segmentation that I want to go after, or what the other players are going after. Yeah. Melissa, how about on your side? Do your bankers, does Bank of Singapore, the standard competitors are DBS Private Bank, Credit Suisse, Julius Baer, UBS, these players. But there are newcomers now. How are you guys equipping the private bankers to deal with some of these competitors?
So I think these fintechs and wealth techs are there to stay. I don't think they will go away, and they remain, competitors. Essentially, I think it's to really help us keep in check, right? Ensuring that we don't slip through, and we are constantly offering the right kind of solutions for our clients. I think the client engagement part, is still something that these ultra high net worth clients look for when they go to private banks. Even though but to Norman's points earlier about segment, right? Because when we talk about next gen, for example, right, how do you then strategize and actually get them on board for these specific next gen ultra high net worth clients? Because they would be dealing with their own money, right? But also with the new money. And, that's where our strategy would have to come in terms of providing, things like your PE funds, your access to private markets. I think that's where the bank can add value, right? And I think to the older loyalties, for them, I think it will be more on inheritance planning, for example, wealth planning, trust. So I think these are the kind of things that we would still continue to do, and in fact, that would be something that's really unique to private banks, for us. So yeah.
Melissa, thank you. So I think both of you are saying is some of the more intimate, confidential, sensitive discussions it's not a chat online. You're talking about succession planning, how much money you're going to leave different children or foundation. Those require deeper conversations that cannot be easily substituted by robo advice. Fantastic. Thank you.
And Carl, maybe
go
if I
ahead.
can also add that technology or system. So in DBS we have an iWealth platform, and the whole idea about this iWealth platform is that it enables our clients to do a lot of self-service.
Is that good or bad though, Norman?
It's actually good. It's actually good in the sense that because you may be thinking that if a lot of self-service, you may have a lot of missed opportunity for client connection, right?
Correct.
But it's actually good. Why? Because it empowers the RMs it empowers the clients to do a lot of self-service, right? So that then we can free up more of our RM's time to work on things that are most important for our clients. Yeah. So that technology is also, coming back to the earlier point that I mentioned, is about how to improve the RM productivity.
The AI.
The AI.
Thank you. I think, during the early days when we first have internet and there was a lot of online travel booking, and especially for certain segments, there are certain segments that will go on the discount and look for all the cheap, even if $2 difference, they'll do it. But certain segments like myself, what do? I research online, but I buy offline.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I still call my travel agent. I think Norman and Melissa, that's what you're saying. A lot of them, they will do a research online, but to make major life decisions for a couple $1 million, they want to see somebody and talk to somebody. Yeah, that combination is very interesting. Melissa, you spoke about next generation. The next gen, actually, I feel a little bit old. That's your generation. The next generation, the way they buy is very different. What are some of the skill sets that you guys are looking at to equip the older private bankers, if I may say, to be equipped to engage with the next gen? And many of them are into fintech themselves and technopreneurs. Melissa, what are some of the...
So a caveat, our next gen RMs are not technically younger. In terms of age, it's age agnostic, right? But that being said, right, I think we are also trying to go after this segment, like a lot of other private banks out there, because this profile of ultra high net worth clients are very unique. They are very, they have easy access to information. In fact, they could be even more well-read and more well-informed, than our relationship managers. So in terms of training, what we are doing really is to upskill them, to everything that's trending, right? To NFTs, to, knowing your know-hows of your digital assets, what are the different digital assets that's out there. And more importantly, it's back to the engagement. So I think especially for this next gen relationship managers who are going after these next gen clients, it's about being really effective and being, short and sharp and really quick, especially when we talk about, having a conversation over Zoom, for example, because now that, Singapore has kind of opened up, everybody is traveling. Nobody has time to go sit and have coffee with you at Ritz-Carlton or, anything, right? If you want to have a call with me, sure, I give you 20 minutes. How do I then have that effective 20-minute conversation with that next gen RM, talking about potential portfolio, profile, portfolio, or, getting some referral. And more importantly, it's about getting into their network, understanding what's of interest, being able to, and these are then the people who would refer their friends. Hey, I met this really cool banker. I think she knows what, she's up to. You might want to give her a call. And that's how they refer. And it's as easy as just sending over a contact via
WhatsApp.
phone, right? So yes.
Yeah, I think, Melissa, the word is efficiency. these next gens are extremely efficient, right? The introduction used to be, let me introduce you to my friend over a lunch. Now it's a WhatsApp group chat. Hello, I want to quickly introduce you guys.
Yeah.
You guys and
You
take
want to come and yeah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah. Norman, on your side, next gen, within the wealth continuum from retail banking branch to treasurers to the private banking and the ultra high net worth, that is the wealth continuum. But the buying behaviors, even within that, are different. The next generation, what's the thinking that DBS is trying to address from a skill set? You're on mute, Norman. Yeah.
Okay, Carl, sorry, just to make sure that I get a question correct. The next gen, you're referring to the client?
Yes, the client's next gen clients, yeah.
Okay. So if the next gen client, I think there are a couple of things to take note. First and foremost, because majority of them will inherit their wealth from the earlier generation. So the investment philosophy may be quite different, right, compared to their dad.
So their worldview is different.
Yes, correct. So that's number one. Then secondly is that the next generation, which are the younger generation, they are more inclined, right, into topics around sustainability, ESG, and obviously technology. Yeah. So and they're more receptive to new ideas, right? New ideas and or other alternative investment, right? So the persona will be quite different. I would say it's very different.
What is DBS as a wealth management platform doing to equip the bankers to be able to relate to them?
Okay, so it's all the things that we mentioned over the last 45 minutes. Yeah. So really to upskill that. So okay, we don't have a particular training programs that say how to effectively engage a next generation, because it cannot be addressed by just one training program. So what we have done is that we have embedded that into all our training programs.
Like
So
the ESG you mentioned, right?
Yes, or just to give you an example, when we have when we train the RMs on client engagement skills or soft skills, we do a lot of case study, we do a lot of role playing, and the role play we will have a persona that's the next gen. Yeah, so it's not a single training program as a solution, but it has to be embedded across the curriculum. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to do a quick kind of a summary. We're about 50 minutes in. I'll just do a quick summary. Thank you again to our two panelists here, Melissa from Bank of Singapore, and Norman with DBS. We talked about maybe 6-7 big topics now. There was a backdrop of the COVID, the Russian war, inflation. Given all these challenges, but there's also opportunities. So we spoke about impact investing, ESG as a very hot topic. We spoke about cryptocurrencies. We also talked about just now next generation. And a big anchor around this discussion today was the mindset, right? Mindset of the clients, mindset of the bankers, and equipping them with the right technical skills, as simple as how to use the virtual meeting platform, technical skills and soft skills on how to conduct effective and efficient portfolio reviews. And, I know, both Norman and Melissa, in our meetings over the past 2 years, sometimes you say, I'm back to back. Literally, back to back means you click leave here and you click on there.
Yeah.
So productivity, in a way, has gotten a little bit higher, but then work-life balance could get very imbalanced, right? So we talked about all that. And then we talk about the talent crunch, where the profile of the people coming in now are different, less homogeneous. So how do we equip them? How do we train them? It's also proving to be a little bit more challenging. Having said all that, I would like to invite the audience to ask some questions. Let me just double check. Okay, I'm going to throw some questions out here. First question is, how about topics on blockchain and quantum computing.
Mm.
Is there any uptick with discussion around these discussions with clients? Quantum computing, Norman.
Okay. Whether does the RM have this level of discussion with the clients? To be honest, I'm not sure. I can't validate that, right? But we do have training programs on that. We have. I think I did mention earlier that we have a suite of digital and data curriculum that we offer to the staff in the organization. But content computing is quite a very advanced topic, it's about, and the usage is, the application is a phenomenon. You can calculate something that you will need 10,000 supercomputer to do it, and the quantum computing can do it like in a split second.
Instantly, yes.
Yeah. But I'm not hearing, at the moment, I'm not hearing that our RMs are going to that level of conversation with clients on advanced topics like this.
Okay, fair enough. Melissa, I'll ask you this question, which is another question a participant has wrote. Will Bank of Singapore DBS be venturing into metaverse? I love this. Metaverse engagements with clients in the near future? And if so, which platforms? Right. Like, keeping in mind, Facebook just changed their name a year ago to call Meta now. So, what I guess maybe let me pull back a little bit. What are the broader, from a broader point of view, any conversation about metaverse from your bank's perspective, Melissa?
So that's definitely a hot topic, right? Metaverse, Web 3.0, that's something that comes up, very often in my conversations with my market heads and team heads. So from a bank perspective, I think we are exploring. In fact, we have had a few client engagement, for some selected clients. So we do have that.
So you talks for clients, because clients
Yes.
are asking about this, is it?
Yes, that's right. So we do have that, but it's for a very small scale, and I think we are on a pilot trying out stage. But we are definitely exploring, and would see how we can offer this across to more clients. In the next couple of months.
I think this metaverse, personally, I'm just going to add my 2 cents. It's a fantastic topic, and everybody who are interested in it. It's a good terminology to know in your arsenal of social discussions and social engagements. But from a bank's point of view, and from an RM point of view, how do I monetize that knowledge? I think it's still out there. Norman, how about DBS with the whole meta?
Yes. So we have some preliminary discussion, not only at the private banking level, but as a bank, right? So we have, in fact, a couple of months back, we have this big conference that we organize every year, that we invite the top leadership into in the bank for this conference, and there was a particular segment on the metaverse. But really, is to help everyone to understand what exactly is metaverse. Yeah, I know a little bit more because I have put in a little bit more effort to go to the net to do a bit of research. But otherwise, we can't assume that everybody knows that. So we have some preliminary discussion. But I think, Carl, you have said it's really about, I think, is how can the bank monetize this, right? How convinced are you that the client will buy a piece of real estate, right, in the digital world? So these are things that it requires very deep conversation. So I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that what we're going to do. Yeah.
It's not just. Sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry. Just to add very quickly, right? So I think back to, in support to what Norman mentioned, and even on the earlier question on blockchain and quantum computing, right? I think the bank's view really is, finding out what are the companies, or supporting the infrastructures, of the setup of these companies. So essentially, when we talk about the whole blockchain, and when we talk about metaverse and all, like the whole, like the brick and mortar, right? The server rooms, like companies that are investing in some of these things. I think that's the angle we're going at this point of time, just on a more safer, return kind of perspective.
Because you can touch and feel those equipment.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Norman, when you talk about, how can we have conversations with clients about buying a real estate property in the metaverse, and when they buy, will DBS provide mortgage? Right? So I think that's a philosophical discussion, not just simply a technology or financial discussion, right? And what is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm just so conscious of time. We're almost clocking 1 hour, and I know we've got about one and a half hours time. So another question here. So do DBS and Bank of Singapore have their own internal digital robo-advisory? And how does it fit with the bankers' engagement with clients? But, Norman, I know that DBS is world famous for its digital platforms. I mean, I'm a client, so I know how good it is. Is there a place for robo-advisory within the wealth private banking platform?
Yes, I think there will be a space for this robo-advisor. But again, I want to emphasize that I think it's important to think through a strategy, right? From a bank's point of view, which segment you are targeting. I think that is really important, right? Which segment you're targeting. So then beyond the robo-advisor, we're also investing a lot in technology, right? Especially when it comes to helping the RMs to provide the wealth advisory to the clients. So we are creating a lot of these enablers that can help the RMs to provide wealth advisory to their clients. Yeah.
So Norman, so it sounds to me like there's two things here. One, robo-advisory is a capability, but that capability can be deployed B2C for a certain segment where people and another capability is B2B, where that technology, that tool, that enabler is provided to the private banker so that the private banker can do a better job to give the right advice, right? Such as portfolio construction based on investment principles like core satellite. And we've spoken about this, Norman. And then it comes back to the mindset. How can you equip and the skill set, the private banker to effectively and efficiently use those tools in the client conversation? Melissa, how about Bank of Singapore with robo-advisory? Is there a coexisting opportunity?
I think there definitely is opportunity for us to do that. At this point of time, I think the bank has a very stable digital platform, where clients actually self-serve and actually review portfolio. But the advisory part at this point of time still stays with the private bankers. But I think I know there are plans actually to test it out in a small segment, of our clients, on some of the more simple transactions, because the plethora of assets and offerings that we have, is quite wide, right? So how do we then segment and ensure that for your portfolio, this particular segment you can refer to robo versus something else? That's just going to complicate everything in that sense. So yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, and also to add on this robo advisor or digi portfolio, right? So it allows this solution offerings to be made available at the retail level. Right. So if you're talking about retail level, sometimes it's quite difficult for clients to construct a portfolio with maybe 50,000, 20,000. It's quite difficult. So with this digi portfolio, it essentially make it available to the retail clients
at a smaller quantum.
Yeah, much smaller quantum.
but same quality of advice, really.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We're just past after the 1 hour mark. I'm a bit conscious about time. Maybe one or two more questions. I have a question here. How do you, within your banks, segment high net worth and ultra high net worth clients? And do you then subsequently match the RMs to these clients? You know, what's the process? Is there a consideration on fit as well as skill set? Melissa, I mean, how do you guys, is there a magic line, ultra high net worth, high net worth? And how do you match it?
So this is interesting, right? Because I mean, the straightforward answer is we segment by geographical location. You know, but I think increasingly we do see some crossovers, right? In terms, you know, like I earlier mentioned, you know, what if there is a change of residency, you know, for clients, right? Do we then pass it on to another market? You know, that kind of thing, you know, kind of gets a little bit more eminent at this point of time. In terms of the segment, for us, because we are solely a private bank, so we don't really segment between high net worth and ultra high. So yeah.
Yeah. As long as they can open an account, we're going to keep special.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. Norman, how about on your side with the DBS team and also?
Yeah, I'll just give a brief explanation without giving too much confidential information. Yeah,
sure.
But of course, the traditional way is really to segment by markets, right? So that's segment by North Asia, you know, Southeast Asia, you know, things like this, the market. And within the market, there are clients with different level of wealth. So ultra high net worth, you know, and the high net worth clients. But to the point is that we will match the right clients, the right RMs to manage the right client. And obviously, you know, one of the parameters that we look at is really about, for example, like we have senior client partners,
okay.
SCP, so they really manage the, but that may not always necessarily be the only consideration. So when we're doing the matching, yeah. So the idea is always match the right RM that can serve the client the best. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know there are some sensitivities because internally there's different kind of constructs, frameworks, criteria, and rules of engagement that sets this apart.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask maybe just one last question. I'm coming back to what was first mentioned earlier today, ESG. And the question here is, what are some of the digital tools, if any, that the bank is engaging to use when having client conversations around ESG from a portfolio review? Because I think this is not an ESG discussion, but we all know that ESG is a broad category, and then it depends on who you ask. The definition of ESG is actually sometimes a moving target. What are the digital tools, if any, that the bankers are being called to use, and are they well trained on these topics? Norman, since you kind of, I'll finish with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't really have a system that caters solely for the ESG. But if I were to answer this question, I would say that when we talk about ESG, one very important segment is to look into the product offerings. Right. So the product team will have to think about, you know, how to build in the ESG into the product solutioning for the clients, and then obviously that will fit into the system, the system that helps the RMs or the clients to construct their portfolio, the asset allocation, then finally the product fulfillment, right?
Based on the ESG criteria.
Correct. So I would say that there's no single system that looks into it. Yeah. And as far as I can see, I don't think there will be ever in the near future, there won't be this system because it has to be integrated into the whole client journey. It cannot be standalone. Yeah.
Absolutely. Melissa, the final question.
And yeah, and I agree. Well, I am not privy of any digital tool that we use, to be honest, within Bank of Singapore. But what I know from the product team example, is we are embedding digital elements, ESG elements, into each of the different product offerings that we have, within, the bank. So it's not just ESG specific portfolio and products, but across some of the other offerings out there, we are looking at a consistent, for example, an ESG rating, to have that embedded as part of the client portfolio. So yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm going to ask. I think there's a QR code for some further information that we can provide. First of all, thank you very much, Melissa, and thank you very much, Norman. I think you've provided both practical insights as well as you've given a lot of philosophical things to think about. The good news is actually both banks continue to prosper and do well, despite the fact that people are no longer able to travel as much before in the last two years. Although the borders are now opening, the last 2 years has been an opportunity to upgrade the skill sets for your bankers, the technical skill sets, the knowledge, and holding deeper conversations digitally. So everyone, thank you very much for today's call. I think this is a QR code that you guys can have. We will provide a checklist to help you get a little bit more ready to become a digital private banker or digital wealth manager, if you may. My name is Carl. I can be found on LinkedIn, CarlThong. And again, thank you very much to IBF for hosting this. And thank you very much to Melissa and Norman for sharing their insight, thoughts, and experience and success stories in this last 1.5 hours. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. IBF.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, IBF.
Thank you, IBF. Yeah, for giving us the opportunity. Yeah, to share.
Thank you. Definitely over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl, Norman, and Melissa for sharing your insights. We have now come to the end of today's session. You may stay connected with IBF via LinkedIn or via our website. If you are interested in obtaining a digital private banker checklist, like what Carl mentioned, you can actually just access this through this QR code. Thank you once again for joining us. Goodbye.